Hello, everyone. I'm Kelly Nole, also known as Quaver TV. Today, I'm going to take you on a journey through the life of a man who not only shaped the legacy of my family world that resonates through the generations. This episode is personal. It's about my grandfather, Marcus Nole, a man of many talents and a rich history. This story isn't just a recollection of facts, but a glimpse into a legacy that spans boxing rings, military service, Hollywood connections, and the deep roots of family. Marcus Nole was born on June 1, 1910, in Houston, Texas, to Lola and Marcus Nole Sr. Growing up in Houston, he was active in sports, a passion that would lead him to a career in boxing. Now, here's where things get a little hazy. There's some family debate about his early life. My father, Ronald Nole, believed that Marcus had Cuban roots, which is interesting given the migration patterns and cultural exchanges between the southern U.S. and Cuba during that time. However, my uncle Curtis, who was part of Marcus's second set of kids, maintains that Marcus was born and raised in Texas. So, whether there's a Cuban connection or not, what we do know for sure is that Marcus was a fighter in more ways than one. Marcus's passion for sports, especially boxing, led him to Detroit, Michigan, in the 1930s. It was here that he made a name for himself in the boxing world, earning the nickname, the Black Thread. This name wasn't just for show. Marcus was known for knocking out his opponents with a ferocity that left an impression on everyone who saw him fight. One of the notable boxers he fought was Joe Wilcox, whom he knocked out cold. Unfortunately, not much is documented about his other fights, as the records from that era, especially for black boxers, were often incomplete or lost. But what we do know is that Marcus was a force to be reckoned with in the ring. Now, let's talk about the boxing connection that leads to one of the greatest boxers of our time, Floyd Mayweather. My father, Ronald Nole, was also a boxer, fighting as a welterweight. He was damn good too. In fact, he taught Floyd Mayweather's father how to box. That's right, the Mayweather legacy, which has dominated the boxing world, has a connection that runs through my family. The skills that Marcus passed down to Ronald were then shared with Floyd's father, shaping the career of a man who would go on to become one of the greatest boxers in history. Marcus didn't just stop at boxing. During World War II, he served in the U.S. Army as a chaplain, stationed at Fort Sill. This role is intriguing because it shows a different side of him. A man of faith who took on the responsibility of providing spiritual guidance to soldiers during one of the most challenging times in history. There's some mystery around his service, though. For one, it's unclear why he didn't see combat, even though he was stationed during the war. What we do know is that Marcus used this time to further his education, attending radio school where he learned to build radios, another testament to his diverse skill set. After the war, Marcus returned to Detroit, where his life took on a new chapter. He married 3 times, with children from each marriage. My father, Ronald Nole, was his firstborn. My uncle Curtis and Aunt Doris were part of his second family, with whom he settled in Texas after leaving Michigan. There's a story that my dad once visited Marcus in Texas, and they got into an argument that escalated to the point where Marcus tried to hit him with a glass ashtray. They didn't talk much after that, except for a phone call in 1985 when I was just 10 years old. This was my first and only interaction with my grandfather. He had a voice box due to some injury, and I could hardly understand him. But he wanted to meet me, his grandson, and that moment, brief as it was, stays with me. But boxing and the military weren't the only arenas where Marcus left his mark. He also had connections in Hollywood, rubbing shoulders with stars like George Raft, Edward G. Robinson, and Mae West. These weren't just casual acquaintances. They were friendships forged during a time when Marcus's presence and personality could leave a lasting impression on anyone he met. It's fascinating to think about the worlds he moved through, from the gritty boxing gyms of Detroit to the glamorous circles of Hollywood. My father, Ronald, wasn't just a boxer. He had his own set of connections, befriending legends like Sidney Poitier, Berry Gordy, and Smokey Robinson. These weren't just chance encounters. My dad boxed with some of these guys under the Carlton Black Label whiskey banner. He also knew Della Reese and, believe it or not, Linda Lovelace. Sam Cooke was actually our cousin, and Al Green used to try to hang out with my dad, who always told him he couldn't sing. Can you imagine that? Al Green, one of the greatest voices in music history, getting told by my dad that he didn't have what it took. My mom, on the other hand, grew up as neighbors with Al Green's mom and once even sat on B.B. King's lap, not realizing who he was at the time. When B.B. King came to perform at a nearby casino later in life, my dad found out the ticket price and said, "Shit, I remember when I could see that fool for a nickel." In his later years, Marcus retired from his career as a police officer, having served in Detroit, California, and Houston, Texas, eventually achieving the rank of sergeant. He continued to preach the gospel until his health began to fail. He passed away on September 8, 1987, leaving behind a legacy that's woven into the fabric of our family history. Marcus Nole was more than just a boxer or a soldier. He was a man who lived through the highs and lows of the 20th century, leaving an indelible mark on everyone he met. From the boxing rings of Detroit to the pulpits of Texas, from his Hollywood connections to the legacy he passed down through my father to me, Marcus Nole's story is one of resilience, talent, and undeniable influence. Thank you for joining me today to honor my grandfather's legacy. This isn't just a story about a man from the past, it's a testament to the power of family, perseverance, and the impact one life can have across generations. I'm Kelly Nole, aka Quaver TV, and this has been Interesting People. Until next time, stay tuned, stay curious, and remember, our stories are what make us immortal. As for me, I'm not as smart as some people think I am, or as dumb either. I'm just trying to make it, finding out. Today that grandpa was a preacher hit me the hardest of all, because Quaver television will probably never turn into a church, but I have a relationship and a lot to say about the Most High.